the Cowboy drama never, ever stops. Like for every other team, this is just early training camp. But for the Cowboys, this is crunch time of their season right now, which is why Jera's nonsense is in overdrive, even if it is one of the most predictable things ever. I mean, most of it has been pretty predictable since the end of last week. Like, we knew it was coming, and then right there on cue, there it is. Let me just once again state, before we get into the chaos from this weekend, that I don't think Micah Parsons is getting traded. In fact, I know it. There's no way Geriatric is going to move this guy. There's no way. He's going to get paid just like every other Cowboy star pretty much ever has. He's just the first one to actually say, I want out. He's the first one to publicly say, trade me. But the Joneses are just doing the thing that they always do. They drag it out, even if they insist that they don't drag out contracts when they do. We all knew that this was going to go down the way it's going down right now. And the only surprise in any of this is that Micah finally did snap, because Micah was really playing it low-key. Micah was staying down. Micah was keeping quiet in the hopes that something would get done, and then he realized how futile that was, and then he finally snapped, and then he asked for a trade, and then said point blank, I don't want to be a Cowboy anymore. Now, at least Jera, and Jera's not sweating that at all, Jera said it's just part of the negotiation. But Jera at least has an explanation as to how things got so strained and so personal and so heated, and how the communication broke down as badly as it did. At least there's someone to blame in all of this, according to Jera. And do you know who that person is? I hate that lame, if you had so-and-so on your bingo card. But did you have Dez Bryant on your bingo card? No, wait. No, it's not Dez. It's actually Jay-Z. It's Jay-Z's fault that Jera and Steva refused to deal with Micah's agent. I'm not joking. Geriatric really tried to say that, which of course caused all hell to break loose on the internet. It's like it started this chain reaction of collateral content, with this quote explaining why he will not communicate directly with Micah's agent. And I quote, because when we have a problem with the player, the agent is nowhere to be found. Jay-Z said that Dez would make all meetings. Jay-Z and I negotiated the contract, spent hours. He said, quote, anybody in my organization is on time. He said, quote, my office used to be on the street corner and I've always been early. So they will be on time, end quote. And what did I say? I said, I'm going to call you when I have a problem. He quit taking my call, end of quote. I mean, Jera gibberish, as always. I have no idea what that street corner and being on time has to do with anything at all. But if I'm understanding the rest of that quote, and I might not be, but I think what he's trying to tell us is that Jay-Z stopped taking his phone calls over a decade ago. Therefore, Jera will not work with Micah's agent today. Even though Micah is not rep by Rock Nation or Jay-Z. And that situation from a decade ago has nothing to do with any of this. Just like Emmitt Smith's holdout from 30 years ago has nothing to do with any of this. But the most important thing Jera wants you to remember is that this is on Jay-Z and Dez. It's their fault. Oh, and Micah too. It's also Micah's fault, since Jera insists that he and Micah agreed to a deal back in March, even though Micah's agent was not in attendance for that meeting. A meeting that Micah thought was set up to talk about leadership and not the contract. Micah says he had no idea that was, quote, a formal negotiation, much less that he had agreed to a formal contract. Jera, meanwhile, says that's why he's not talking to Micah's agent and all that Jay-Z stuff. But That's why he's not talking to Micah's agent, because in Jarrett's mind, they already have an agreement.
Done.
You know, that conversation that he had with Micah directly back in March, which Micah thought was about leadership, not a contract. They had an agreement, just not on paper, but in Geriatric's head. All right, so there's all that. But anyway, back to Dez and Rock Nation. Of course, Dez and Rock Nation, we're not going to take that lying down. Rock Nation released a statement calling Jarrett's claim, quote, false and, quote, comical. Dez, on the other hand, I don't think found any humor in it. Dez got more Dez with it. Dez went Dez. Dez got spicier.
This is the spicy challenge.
No, that's Micah. At Dez Bryant, quote, Jerry Jones, I don't think it's smart to mention my name. I kept quiet about a lot of unfair-ish on some G-ish. We can have story time if that's what we're doing. End of quote. Man, is there anybody that Jerry isn't pissing off these days? It seems like everybody hates you, old man. Your fans, your best players, your former players, but not apparently Nicki Minaj. How did she jump into this? Now, this is where this episode of Love Island NFL Edition goes off the rails completely. Because for some reason, Nicki Minaj, of all people, decided to insert herself into this mess, and she's actually siding with Jera against Dez. At Nicki Minaj posted, quote, hey, it's Nicki Minaj. How about we play a game? Every time you do a Jerry Jones or NFL story time, I'll do a story time of my own. And then she went on to hammer Dez and Jay-Z and Rock Nation in a series of posts that are so wild, I can't even really blur them out to show them on the stream because the entire post would be blurred out. Wild stuff. But essentially, she started beating on Dez for allegedly beating on his own mother, among other things. Dez even tried to defuse. He tried to defuse and headed off with his post. Look how desperate this dude was to avoid this fight. Check it out.
Look, Miss Nicki, leave me out of it. I don't want no problems. I'm a huge fan. I hope you're having a great day.
Yeah, well, apparently, my guy, and usually Dez is quick to escalate, but he didn't want any part of that. And say, listen, it doesn't involve you. Yeah, well, and he's a big fan. Apparently, my dude, she's no fan of yours because she trucked right through that attempt and kept smacking the dude over and over and over again. Even escalated to the point, this is crazy, escalated to the point where he called her husband, her husband out for being a registered sex offender. So for some reason, she offered Dez $10 million in cash to fight him, which of course Dez has now accepted. And I gotta say, my man, it's a pretty good deal for you. That looks to be a pretty good deal for Dez, unless there's something about her husband that I don't know. Pretty funny if Jera ends up getting Dez paid all these years later, because I'm pretty sure that Nicki Minaj's husband is a pretty normal-sized dude. Dez is not a normal-sized dude. Like, Dez didn't even want any of that smoke.
I don't want no problems.
He doesn't want no problems.
I don't want no problems.
But I'll take your 10 mil. I don't want no problems, but 10 mil to beat on your normal-sized husband, who also happens to be a registered sex offender? Hell yeah, I want that. I don't want no problems, but I want that.
Look, Miss Nicki.
Once he said he would take the 10 mil, Miss Nicki stopped responding.
Look,
I don't think Miss Nicki thought that part through. I'm not sure anybody is thinking any of this through.